Welcome to the Florida Tulane Gasparilla Bowl post-game live. It is early Monday morning at 9 o'clock, 3 hours until the Gators play basketball, 3 hours until the first playoff game, our second playoff game. We saw Notre Dame take down Indiana, and about how everyone expected them to do so. No real surprise there. But the Gators last night take home the 33-8 win. Scoreboard-wise, really everywhere-wise, the Gators dominated this game. There was never really a doubt about if Tulane could win this game. But it did leave a funny taste in your mouth. You saw DJ Lagway struggle a bit. Maybe some bad coaching in there, especially on special teams early in that game. What was your main takeaway from this game, Tyler?
Yeah, I think just it was a good I think it was actually a really good encapsulation of kind of the way this season has ended. Like, it was a dominant win. The team, like, on paper looked really good. It's just there's still just sloppiness in there. You know what I mean? Whether it's like you said, whether it's some poor decision making from DJ Lagway, whether it's a passing game that I still don't think scheme wise is developed to where it needs to be. Whether it's, mental mistakes, wasting timeouts early in the half. Florida got, burned all 3 of their timeouts in the first half with like 4 minutes to go or something like that. Just a lot of things that are like, this needs to be cleaned up, but it wasn't a bad performance by any means.
Yeah, no, it wasn't a bad performance. It was a pretty dang good performance. We beat a 9-win team by 26 points. So don't think you can really, or 25 points. Don't think we can really complain there, especially our predictions. I had us winning by 21 points. I had us winning 34-13.
I had us winning by 17. Yeah.
You were 35-17, I think.
I think it was 34-17, but yeah.
34. Yeah. So it's like on paper, we did better than both of us predicted.
Yeah.
We're going to be upset about some things, but also we got to give the defense a lot of credit. The defense played a near perfect. They played perfect game, really.
Yeah.
Because it was when we put the walk-ons in on defense, and Tulane got some pretty interesting calls there to help them even get the touchdown.
Yeah.
The reffing in this game, oh my God, it was so one-sided.
It was all over the place. It was, but I would also just say it was like bad. Like, there were just bad spots. There were more. There was a bad spot that I think helped Florida too that I can remember, but like there were bad spots, just questionable penalty decisions or like missed penalties. Like, it was just a very poorly officiated game.
Because, like, in the fourth quarter, there was a deep ball throw to Elijah Badger. That was an obvious pass interference. They don't call it. And there's like 6 minutes in the game. So I'm like, okay, maybe they're just trying to let the game end here real quick. But then when Tulane has 30 seconds left and they go to score a touchdown, they call a pass interference on us. Yeah. Like, I can get it. And did the game?
That one was like questionable, but they hadn't been calling that all game.
No. But the penalty counter ended Florida 9 penalties for 95 yards and Tulane 3 penalties for 33 yards.
Yeah.
So, we still overcame that and dominated this game.
Yeah.
When you look at the stat sheet, I said maybe the key factor in this game was in 3 of Tulane's 4 losses, they had given up over 200 rushing yards, and the one they didn't give up 200 rushing yards was still 182 rushing yards.
Yeah.
Well, Florida rushed for 224 yards on Tulane. 44 attempts, 5.1 yards per carry. Not only did we run for over 200 rushing yards, we also passed for over 300 yards, which is something we hadn't seen Lagway do since the Samford game, right?
Yeah, I don't think
Maybe Kentucky. No,
because Kentucky, because remember, he only completed like 6 passes in that. Yeah, or something. Like, it was like very few. It was like 250 yards. So like really good efficiency, but he didn't get to 300.
Yeah, so we got to 300 today. Decent efficiency, you would say then. Lagway made some mistakes in this game. You saw the freshman. You also saw that hamstring still is not ready to it's not ready. He's going to have a really good offseason for getting healthy and hopefully improving some of his progression stuff. We saw him check down a good bit more today than we've seen him check down all season.
Yeah.
You saw Tulane was playing 3 safeties back nearly the entire game. They weren't allowing Lagway to get that deep ball. But you also saw him hesitate on some of those short throws a bit. There was one, I think it was a check down to the tight end to where he has it for 10, maybe 15 yards to Livingston, but he's waiting. Like, he's trying to see if the deep ball gets there. But, he should kind of know that Tulane isn't giving that up at all and just take the check down to the tight end, which ends up going for nothing because then Tulane starts getting pressure. So we missed 15 yards there, and I think that was a drive we ended up having to punt on.
Yeah. I would say going back to the run game real quick, just kind of like I mean, obviously they ended up running for 220. What do you say? 224 on 44. 224 on 44. Yep. Yeah. So like, I mean, they ran the ball a lot. I thought in the first half, I was a little surprised they didn't run the ball more. I mean, Lagway 35 pass attempts in this game. I would not have guessed that. That was pretty surprising to me.
So I noticed like the first 3 drives, both our running backs were averaging over 5 yards per carry, but they only had like 30 total yards on the first 3 drives. But then we started running the ball more later on in that first half.
Yeah.
Because I noticed that early on too, but then we did start running it a good bit. I mean, we ran for 200 yards, but it also felt like Tulane's front 7 did a decent job of stopping us in the tackles. So I'm a little surprised it was over 200. I was thinking it was maybe 160, 170, but no, it was 200 yards. So early on, you'd like to see him run it a bit more. I feel like Billy kind of gets in the head of like, we don't want to be too predictable early on, but then it ends up being like the same thing every game where he tries to throw it. Like we saw it with Anthony Richardson back in 2022, to where he would kind of just like, oh, they're going to think we're going to run now, so let's continue to throw it. And it just wouldn't work. Yeah. So I do get what you mean. I mean, I wouldn't say necessarily the play calling was the biggest problem in this game. I mean, Lagway had those 2 turnovers.
Yeah.
Tulane did a decent job of stopping the run early on. I mean, a decent job. Like, it was kind of inefficient. Like, it would be a 1-yard run, but then it would be like a 10-yard run early on. That's kind of how the yards per carry would end up going, set us behind the sticks a bit. So I can understand not feeling like we were running the ball enough.
Yeah. And I mean, I will also say, like, in spite of them ultimately being productive offensively, I think missing Damian George and Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon in this game really hurt. Like, I think you saw on that right side of like, I mean, run blocking, like a lot of the success in the run game was Jaden Baugh and Jacoby Jackson making plays in spite of not really having that hole there, you know, not like having to beat a guy at the line of scrimmage because someone missed their assignment. Like there was I think there were some mistakes in that regard that hurt the offense. I'll say go back to DJ Lagway. Like, I actually think like the fan base was a little bit overreactive to that performance from what I saw. Like, I think that it really was like a pretty typical game for DJ Lagway. Like, there were a lot of good moments. There were a lot of nice plays he made in this game. You know, rolled out, found an open guy. I think, you know, accuracy, ball placement, all those things are things that he could work on a little bit. You know, I remember there was one play he kind of hit a wide open DK. I think it was DK. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it was
DK went for 95 yards. So.
Yeah, it was like a kind of a middle deep corner route, I think. And it was, you know, he hit him. He threw it kind of high, and he had to go up for it.
Yeah, it was DK. You know,
okay, yeah.
I know.
And it probably could have been a decent yak play if that ball was put a little bit more on target. So just stuff like that he needs to clean up. But I mean, we've seen Lagway is good for a really questionable throw pretty much every game. It seems like today or yesterday he had 2. But I think outside of those interceptions, which were like, those were pretty bad decisions, no doubt about it. But I thought it wasn't the worst game for him, especially considering he still just is obviously not willing to run when he's, because there were plenty of plays where he had the space to make a run. Yeah.
In the red zone.
Yeah.
That's probably a touchdown run, but
yeah.
And you saw him do a read option. And you saw him after the play slide. He slid a couple times in this game, and it's like he was slowly getting up. Like, you can tell that hamstring's not ready.
Yeah. So I mean, it's hard to read too heavily into it when he's still recovering, still a true freshman who's going to make mistakes. Like, I didn't see anything yesterday that made me be like, I don't know if Lagway's like who I thought he was.
I don't think anyone's saying that, or any Gator fan is saying that.
I mean, not necessarily to that extreme, but I definitely saw a lot of Lagway negativity that I thought was like not deserved for like the overall game that he played. Because he still threw for 300 yards, was fairly like efficient in terms of completion percentage and stuff like that. So like, I don't think it was a bad game for him. He just had a couple really questionable plays.
I mean, yeah, that's a fair point. Going back to the offensive line, I mean, I felt like they were in the backfield a lot on Lagway. They didn't give Lagway enough time to throw, especially. I mean, I can't really be surprised here. We were starting the backup right guard, Bryce Levette, at right tackle. and then Cameron Waits was starting at right guard. That's
Mhm.
just not a recipe for success. And I mean, I don't think even if we didn't get a transfer portal right tackle like we plan on, that we think we're getting, I don't think they'd even start Levet there next season because they do have some young guys like Caden Jones, Marcus Maskell, and Fletcher Westfall who would probably
Mhm.
get a spot over him. So going into next season, I'm not necessarily worried about the offensive line, and Damian George will be back at right guard, so
Yeah.
they're fine there. But like, and speaking on Lagway, like the offensive line didn't give him much help. I mean, we saw Tulane do a decent amount of blitzing and getting to the quarterback, and that young right side line, or I mean, Cameron Waits isn't really even young. Levet is, but Waits just isn't as good as we would hope he was. But yeah, I'm not necessarily worried about Lagway's potential. This was a game like we've seen Lagway in the LSU game make throws that probably should have been intercepted.
Mhm.
Don't really. Oh, he had an interception in the Ole Miss game, but that was like DK and bad. Not a perfect throw, and I mean that was both on DK and Lagway a bit. So it's not like the interceptions were uncommon for Lagway.
No, and he toes the line too. Like, do you
Yeah,
remember? I think it was pretty early in the game. The play where he kind of hits DK on like the slant or something, and it's like a very timing based route.
yeah.
Like, there's a guy right there, and if he throws it like half a
Wasn't it to
second
Badger
later,
the slant?
maybe it's not a slant. I'm almost positive it was DK the play that I'm thinking of because he was big and had to like hold on to it
Hmm.
because he throws it like there's a linebacker coming
Oh,
right
doesn't
into
it?
him.
Okay, it's the one they had to review for if DK caught it,
Uh,
or is that a different throw?
Different throw, I think.
Oh,
But
okay.
the play I'm thinking of, yeah. So there's like a linebacker closing in on this kind of like inside slant
Mhm.
route, and I mean Lagway hits the timing perfectly, and DK catches it. But I mean, literally half a second late on that ball, that linebacker's jumping
Yep.
it and probably making a play on it. So it's like, but it worked. It was a good play, and it's because
Mhm.
Lagway I think, has a natural good feel for that, like the timing of these plays and for fitting those balls in there. It's just you kind of take the good with the bad when you have an aggressive young quarterback
Yep.
like that.
Speaking of DK, he had a really good game today. 6 catches for 96 yards, no touchdown. And Tony Livingston, in replace of Arlis Borningham, fully 4 catches, 58 yards, and the touchdown. Aiden Mizell had a couple of good catches early on in the game. I mean, didn't really see much of him in the second half. Even TJ Abrams had a 31-yard catch, which
Yeah.
kind of surprising to me. Elijah Badger in his last game, only 2 catches for 17 yards. But I mean, the receivers played well in this game. I mean, I don't really think you can nag on them at all, even the tight ends.
No, and
Just
Mizell. Sorry, what were you saying?
finish what you're saying on Mizell, and then I'll go.
I was just I thought Mizell made some nice plays, which is good to
Yep.
see because that's a guy that you're, even with Sturdivant coming, even with probably not the last portal receiver that, probably
No.
gonna take another portal receiver at some point too.
Yep.
Like even with guys coming in, I think Mizell is gonna, compete to play a lot next year. And I think it was nice to see him make some plays and see that DJ likes finding him with the ball.
Well, we know Billy does like to play 5-6 receivers a game.
Yeah.
So there is that playing time. I mean, today
Yeah.
we played DK, Mizell, Abrams, Badger. I saw Frazier was out there, and Tank Hawkins was also out there. Like that's 6
Because
receivers.
he didn't make a catch. I was literally gonna ask what because I didn't notice Tank Hawkins out there. I know he didn't make a catch. I was wondering. I was gonna ask if he played and if he didn't.
Yeah, he did.
But okay.
So then going back on to Tony Livingston, so we bring in Amir Jackson played at the end of the game as well. I wonder if assuming he doesn't enter the portal, does Livingston have a spot to be a starter next year? Because
It's possible. Yeah.
I haven't really heard any names in the transfer portal the Gators are targeting.
Yeah.
I liked what I saw from Livingston. He's definitely quicker than Hansen is. Not sure about Amir Jackson. Again, he's the highly rated talent that we got out of high school last year as a true freshman. So not really surprised we didn't see too much of him. But I think we saw a little bit from Livingston that could point to him being a good tight end. We also know coming out of high school, he was ranked as a tackle, an offensive lineman. So he is a pretty good pass blocker, or I mean blocker in general. So run blocker too. So maybe we found something there tight end.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like DJ was more, at the very least, was more, interested in getting him the ball than he was with Arlis in the playing. When Arlis was playing the same role earlier this year. Like, I think you potentially have a starter there, because obviously, Billy runs so much 12 personnel. Hayden Hanson's on the field a ton, but doesn't run that role really. I mean, hey, although he did have at least one catch yesterday.
He had two.
Two? Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that I still would like to see a tight end in the portal just to get some competition, even if it's not like a super proven guy, just get some competition in there, get another guy who's capable of playing that more vertical threat tight end role for Billy, just because nothing against Livingston. I think the tight end has been a weakness really the entirety of the Billy era, and that needs to be addressed.
Can this offense stop leaving tight ends to block D linemen one-on-one? I mean, you also got to give defenses credit sometimes for that. Like, they can draw up plays and stuff to make those matchups. So it's not necessarily just a Billy thing in the offense. But, I mean, and when you're at this level of talent, maybe your tight end should be able to block them. Like, I mean, I don't know. But, give one last shout out to Anthony Rubio, 6 carries, 32 yards, and a touchdown. The walk-on.
Yeah.
Billy's run scheming is just so good. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to discredit Rubio or anything, but like the holes are open for the running backs. He made a decent play to get on that touchdown too. It's just, I mean, gotta give credit to the run scheming. Oh, and how could I forget on offense? Desmond Watson.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was like, you better not leave out Big Dez.
The greatest half-yard run for a first down in college football history. 449 pounds of pure awesomeness. I mean, the fourth quarter, not only did we score 17 points, which made it fun, we also brought in Big Dez out there for 2 plays to block and to run. So, I mean, and they say Travis Hunter is the best two-way player in college football. I mean, maybe Big Dez is up there.
Can I be honest? That actually kind of made me mad because when that happened, I was like, why haven't they done this all year? Like he got 4 yards after contact. They couldn't bring him down, or like 3 yards after contact. Like I'm like, when I saw that, I was like, why weren't we using him the way like Ole Miss uses JJ Pegues? I mean, I'm not saying that should be like a regular thing. I'm just like, why have we not seen that wrinkle once in any situation?
I will say Big Dez does have like 100 pounds on JJ Pegues.
Makes it even harder to bring him down.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's true. But I mean, that was exciting. I missed the opportunity to take a picture of Jack Cagalone because they were bringing Big Dez, and I didn't want to miss that.
Oh man, that's a real dilemma there.
It was because I saw Cags, and then I looked at the screen, and they're bringing Desmond Watson, so it's like run to my seat or take a picture with Cags, and I made the decision to go watch Big Dez get a half a yard for the most electrifying play of the game. Let's get to the defense. I mean, there wasn't really one standout player on defense. I mean, Big Dez, again, had the play. He just lifts up Ty Thompson like he did the Zephyr back in 2021 or 2022. 2022 it was. Where he just lifts him up. He could have slammed him, but he didn't want to get the penalty. He even said after the game, we were only up by 3 points or 6 points at the time, so got to make sure we get the win. We did, but I mean, Big Dez started at nose tackle, Cam Jackson's replacement. He got a good game. You also saw Cameron James get a sack with Big Dez. They got credit for half a sack, I think, each.
So
maybe not.
The only sack that was credited was to Cam James. Yeah.
I thought Tyreek Sapp had a sack, but maybe he pushed Ty Thompson out of bounds.
I thought Castell had one too, but Castell's was counted as a TFL.
Yeah, because that was a designed run play. I know which play you're talking about.
Yeah.
The refs let a false start go on. I mean, the refs let a lot go for Tulane too. There was a false start on one play for Tulane where the whole right side of the offense, including the running back, false started and they didn't call it on I think it was the fourth down after Big Dez got the stop. So
I'm not trying to start media beef or whatever, but the commentary was horrible.
That's
I don't know. You were at the game, so I know you weren't listening, but like
I saw. Yeah.
Andre Ward, I think it's who the caller guy was. He said that Lagway wasn't highly recruited out of high school.
I heard that.
There were just so many what are you talking?
They were calling gums grubs. Like
Yeah, I'm trying to remember specifics, but I just remember all game being like, what are these guys talking about?
They also, so obviously Raymond James is like pirate themed and everything,
Yeah.
Buccaneers. They had a pirate on the field and stuff for the game. After the Gators scored a touchdown, he was celebrating like he was part of the team. And then with like 2 minutes left, he was trying to dig up the X. I couldn't tell if he actually thought he was supposed to dig it up or not, because they had someone, security guard, like tell him to stop. I couldn't tell if that was planned or not. It was kind of weird.
That's
I
pretty
mean,
awesome.
yeah, it was weird, but it was interesting. It was pretty cool, I guess. But yeah, so let's get more into the defense. The defense got 3 interceptions. You could tell I'm missing both edge rushers in Pyburn, Searcy. We didn't really have much pass rush. It felt like we got pass rush on some plays like instantaneously. I mean, in like an instant. But then like when they dropped back to pass, it felt like Ty Thompson did have like all day to throw.
Yeah.
I mean, we were missing Caleb Banks as well and Cam Jackson. So it's like I don't really blame them because like we're putting true freshmen in there, DeAndre Robinson, Makai Barrow, LJ McCray. So it's like I'm not really going to be upset we're not getting pressure because I know we will get more pressure. We should at least next season. So I'm not too worried about that. But coverage-wise, guess who the highest graded player in this game was for the Gators? If I wouldn't ask you this if it wasn't a player that we've talked about a good bit.
I mean, was it Castell?
It was Jordan Castell. I mean,
he actually had a pretty good game. Like honestly, he did. Just from the I didn't know that he was the highest grade, but just from the eye test, it seemed like he had a pretty good game.
I don't know how much of that was Ty Thompson being really, really, really bad. How much of it was him having a good game? Yeah. I mean, when's the last time the Gators played a passing offense that bad?
I don't even know, man. Like literally,
Georgia Southern 2013,
probably, yeah. Like,
yeah.
I don't want to like take anything away from the defense because I thought they played really well, but like Tulane with Ty Thompson, that offense was horrific, man. And Makai Hughes is a really good running back. It just they couldn't really get it going, and honestly didn't really try just because they kind of fell behind in the second half and couldn't really run the ball. But like, I mean, Ty Thompson was horrifically bad in this game.
Even Ty Thompson should have ran the ball more. There were some plays where he kept his eyes downfield where if he would have ran it, he probably would have got a first down. But like 9 carries for 17 yards for Ty Thompson. Makai Hughes, 8 carries for 29 yards. Shady Clayton Johnson, 5 carries for 18 yards. I mean, we said Tulane might have some running success, especially missing Pyburn and Searcy. They didn't. I mean, they just had no success. They got the touchdown at the end. So Ty Thompson had 125 passing yards. They had 99 yards given to them by penalties. I mean, they almost had more yards given to them by penalties than they did on offense in total.
Yeah.
Is this the most complete defensive game we've seen from the Gators since like 2018?
I mean, probably. Again, like unless you count like Samford or McNeese.
I mean, even Samford,
year, like
they scored.
We held them each to like 7, I think. I don't remember the exact scores, but yeah, like against like a team that was in the playoff hunt 3 weeks ago. Like, I can't remember the last time they did something like that.
Because I saw people saying, "Oh, take the over in this game." Gators are missing both their edge rushers. Caleb Banks, Cam Jackson aren't playing.
Yeah.
Grayson Pup Howard wasn't playing. Gates obviously wasn't playing. Everyone was saying, "Oh, take the over." I mean, I don't know
what the over was. What was the? I was gonna say, do you know what the over was?
Let me check real quick. I can figure it out.
Because I mean, I was just gonna say, like, I mean, Florida probably should have gotten pretty close to hitting the over itself, just looking at the fact that it had 529 yards in this game. But.
Yeah, that's true. The over was 50, so no, 50? We hit 41. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I still think, like, with the way the game played out, the over probably should have at least come closer to getting a hit than it did. Because Florida should have scored a lot more points in this game than they did.
Honestly. We definitely should have. George Gums, he also played a really good game. We saw him play more at Jack as well with the absence of Pyburn and Searcy. I mean, the whole defense play. Is there anyone on defense that didn't play a good game?
No, not that comes to. I can think of is guys that I want to shout out, like Miles Graham having an interception.
Yeah, I mean, Man, Miles Graham, he's going to be backup still, assuming Shamar James is here next year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't even know if they're saying.
Should we assume that? Is that a safe assumption, do you think?
Safe assumption, no. He
Yeah, I think
said
so.
that he is torn between leaving to the NFL or staying with the game. I mean, Shamar James had a really good end to the season. Like, he was decent. He was good to start the year, but he really was really good to end the season. So maybe he does leave. Maybe he enters the portal. I mean, this linebacker room is so talented, man.
Yeah. Childs played a lot in this game too. Had a nice pressure coming off the edge.
Yeah, yep. Also, we saw Trequez Bridges have now an interception while playing safety and playing corner. I mean, man, I really wish we had another season of Bridges. He might be cornerback 1 next year.
Yeah.
I mean, I really hope he gets a good chance in the NFL because I think he's someone he can be a really, really good player. I mean, the safeties played well. They don't really have to do much. Alfonso Allen, the walk-on transfer from Baylor, he got the tip drill interception. I mean, who would have predicted him getting a pick this game?
I got to be completely honest with you. When that happened, and I probably shouldn't admit this as someone who does a Gator show, but I was like, who? Like and then I looked at, I was like, oh, I vaguely remember getting this DB transfer from Baylor. But like at the time, I mean, has he played at all before this game?
He played last week.
Okay.
With the Gates injury, because he plays the star position.
Okay.
I don't know if Denson got hurt or they just were resting Denson. Because Allen played like the entire second half. So I don't know if that's an injury to Denson or if they just wanted to pull. I mean, because most of the starters did stay on the field.
Yeah.
One thing to mention, we are having a UAB transfer on campus this weekend, who I'm pretty sure would play star here. Aaron Gates' injury is not good. Like, he might not be able to even like fully practice until the season starts. So
really? I didn't realize that. Wow.
Like, that's what I've heard. Like, he probably at the earliest is like near start of fall camp. That's like, if you're really good. So we're probably going to take a transfer, and this UAB guy is a redshirt freshman. I wonder if Gates maybe hits the portal.
Because Sharif Denson coming back too, right?
Yes, Denson's a sophomore going into his junior season.
Yeah.
So if you have the UAB transfer who had really good coverage stats, plus Denson, I mean, Gates coming off that really bad injury, it's like not going to play this season until at least like halfway through probably. But then you have two guys who I wouldn't be surprised if either of them are like some of the best stars in the country. So it's a really interesting spot to be in because I want to keep Gates. We both said Gates played amazing to end the season. I mean, Gates may have been one of the best players on defense to end the season this year. So love to keep him. But I mean, sometimes things just don't play out that way.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously that's too important a position to not feel good about it, what you got outside of him if his health's in question.
Rob,
I don't know.
So all our great players played because of
like who? Like you're talking about I mean, obviously Lagway, but like
I would still argue, like in this game specifically, I think we probably would have been up 3 scores at halftime if Mertz played.
You might be right. I mean, because Mertz probably doesn't throw those bad interceptions, but and it's not like we really hit the big plays in this game the way that like the ones that Lagway is really only capable of hitting. So,
and then on defense, who's playing because of injury? I mean, the corners. I mean, Jason Marshall is great. I mean, and Devin Moore is really good.
I mean, young guys are playing because of injury, and they're looking pretty good. But I wouldn't say like guys that we should have been starting all along necessarily.
Because, like, literally the only one you can really talk about, maybe Ball. I mean, Montreal still had 200-yard games. He only had, like, 99.
And even Ball, I mean, Jacoby was Ball ended up getting more carries, but Jacoby was kind of the main guy early in the game, at least.
Yeah, Ball had some big plays in the, like, fourth quarter. But, I mean, Ball struck. I mean, I don't know if it's Ball, the offensive line. Yeah. So it's like Ball early on wasn't being productive as you would hope from him. He did end up finishing with 70 yards. So it's like, and Katie Daniels, I mean, that fumble Ruski touchdown. I mean, I'd love to see it. Go
That was
Gators.
one of the funniest things I've ever seen happen on a football field, to be honest with
Go
you.
Gators, Kenneth. I mean, that play was so fun. Yeah, I mean, I saw it happen. I'm always in group chats making jokes like, "Oh, fumble Ruski attempt right here," and then to see the Gators like accidentally have one. I mean,
what was funny too is because if Billy tried to draw up a fumble Ruski, it would never work in a million years. But just letting it happen, it worked out.
Yeah, I mean, Katie Daniels also looked really good in this game.
Yeah,
I mean, he had the longest run of
all
the
the running
game.
backs played well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Daniels 5 carries, 55 yards, 11 per carry, 25 is the long, which was the fumble Ruski touchdown play right there.
Mm-hmm.
So
really heads up play. I mean, it was really impressive. Like just paying attention and staying
from a true freshman who didn't really play at all this season.
Yeah,
that's something you don't really see them make that often, and he made it.
Yeah.
What is something going into next season? This game specifically makes you like, okay, to be a playoff team next year, we have to do.
I'd say. I mean, I would still say. I think very important to land a replacement for Crenshaw Dixon.
Yes.
In the transfer portal. I think I'm not saying even if it's a guy that's just competing with the young guys you already have, you need another body there. I don't know if you can rely on what we have. And I think we saw in this game that the right side, at least in the current state, is sort of a liability without him. And I mean, I don't want to hammer this home because I don't believe it's going to happen, but I think I'd still love to see Billy hire an offensive coordinator to build a passing game around what Lagway is really capable of doing. I don't believe that's going to happen. So at the very least, I'd like to see Billy adapt his system a little bit to better suit Lagway's talents. Because I think right now Lagway is doing a pretty good job of making this system work. But I don't think it's tailored or optimized to what he does best. I'd like to see it be that. I'm not sure I'm optimistic in that regard, but I think that is probably what it's going to take.
We do have offensive tackle from Central Connecticut, Retrell Perry, taking a visit this weekend. So maybe that's the guy on him. If Mertz played, we would have had less points. Dude has 0 mobility in the pocket. Let's keep it. People underrate Mertz's mobility. Mertz finished the year with more rushing yards than Lagway, I'm pretty sure.
He got hurt last year, scrambling for a first down.
Exactly. And I mean, Lagway's also playing on a bad hamstring. It's not like he had the greatest mobility. I mean, Lagway worked through the pocket really well, even with the mobility. So there is that. But I mean,
obviously Mertz is not as mobile as Lagway.
Yeah.
But Lagway is also not the most mobile quarterback. That's never been a massive part of his game.
And he's injured.
Yeah, and he's injured. I more think it's just, literally it's just that that Lagway threw a couple interceptions that cost him points that Mertz probably doesn't throw. It's really that simple. And there weren't, like we said earlier, there weren't plays, because there are plays Lagway can hit that Mertz can't, but there weren't really a lot of those plays in this game.
Mertz, Lagway, again, I don't think you can really argue that Mertz. You can argue Lagway. We probably don't beat Ole Miss with Mertz in. But, we probably beat Tennessee if Mertz doesn't get hurt in that game. Montreal's still a really good running back, guys.
And Montreal, when you saw him a lot down the stretch, he was playing through injuries, so I don't think it's really fair.
He also had 100 yards and 99 yards in those last 2 games.
Yeah.
Khalil Jackson over Badger. There's also a thing you got to look at the first game. Sometimes you play those players that you have more trust in. Same thing with Jakeem.
Badger was a post-spring addition. He wasn't there in spring. Yeah.
You don't even know if he knows the defense. Jakeem, that was one game again. Jakeem got hurt in that game too. Who knows how good Dijon would have progressed throughout the season.
Yeah.
Austin Martin also was an elite level transfer safety.
We saw him play like a half. We don't know.
We only saw him play like a half.
I understand. I'm not saying I think Billy's evals are all world when it comes to deciding who's playing on the field. I just I don't know if I'd say Asa Turner shouldn't have been starting because he didn't look incredible against Miami and then got hurt immediately. I don't know.
He was a 4-star level transfer. Pretty good stats. A real.
And also Bridges didn't make much of an impact on until late
early on. Yeah. Bridges was not elite at that point. Maybe been a better corner than safety. Maybe you can argue Bridges should have been at the corner, but Jason Marshall and Devin Moore are really good corners.
They were playing really well before injuries limited them. Yeah.
When Mertz when pressured, I'm not sure. I'm trying to
melts.
Melts.
I assume that's what he meant.
I mean, we've seen
he doesn't
Mertz.
turn the ball over. Like Mertz does not
No.
turn the ball over. That's like he's like hyper efficient, honestly, maybe to a fault. Like he doesn't take chances he maybe should.
I saw a lot of Gator fans, like, they're blaming Napier's offensive play calling. Like, yes, Napier's play calling isn't great, but like that first half, I don't think was really on Napier's play calling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they just don't want to blame Lagway for mistakes.
Yeah.
They're kind of like, oh, we shouldn't be throwing here, or oh, the route design on like the end zone was not good. Like, I mean, sometimes it's just on the freshman QB, and like again, he's a freshman quarterback. I'm playing on a bad hamstring. Okay, Spirito, Mizell.
I mean, that one, honestly, I can't really argue with. That one's pretty bad.
Yeah. I mean, we did see Mizell actually start, though. Like, it was 3 games. I mean, even the Texas A&M game, we didn't really see much of Spirito until he slips on when we're making a slight comeback in the end of the game.
I guess I wouldn't say like Asa and Mertz are like practice warriors. I mean, Mertz had a pretty good season last year, and Lagway was a true freshman. Like, I mean, I get the point you're making. I just like I think there's a little more going on with most of these examples.
People forget that Tulane has a solid defense. I mean, we're
not
both
really
still
against
big
the
on
run.
No,
but
that's very true. I mean, we're both still high on Summerall, and like,
he's great coach. Yeah.
Both thought he'd probably have a good strategy coming into the game. Didn't really work out as well as he would have hoped. I mean, I don't know what his expectations were, because like he probably had to know Ty Thompson.
I don't know the state of where their defense was at in terms of opt-outs. Like, I really don't know. So
I know they were missing a D tackle.
Okay.
They were missing a D tackle and edge rusher. I'm not sure about the rest of their defense though.
Gotcha.
So, we're on a pretty strict time constraint here. Do you just want to get your final words in on the game?
Yeah, I mean, look, first bowl win since 2019. I think that's something to be happy about. Even though, I mean, look, they won 8 games this year, man. And I didn't really think that was a very big possibility coming into the year. I certainly didn't think it was a possibility at like the end of September. I mean, I thought this was heading for a 4-8 or a 5-7 at best. Like I really did at one point. After the Miami and A&M losses, because they just were completely uncompetitive. And I mean, there's obviously still a long ways to go. And I mean, I think this game was a good marker of like, there's good things here, but there's also a lot that needs to be cleaned up if you're going to compete for a playoff spot next year, which I think you have to do. I think if Billy's going to stick around in this job beyond 2025, they've got to be at least in that playoff mix coming down the home stretch of the season. But I mean, look, winning 8 games this year with this schedule, and especially doing it in a way that's not like you start 7-2 and collapse, doing it in a way where you end strong, enter the offseason on a 4-game winning streak with some momentum. Like it is encouraging. It's really, honestly, probably about the best case scenario for how this could have played out, especially with the way the season started. So I'm happy about it. I just think it showed that there's a lot of work that still needs to be done this offseason.
Yeah, like Rob says, he's happy Lagway wasn't happy with his performance. He said that this game is going to make him better. He's going to work on stuff throughout the offseason.
I mean, look, if this was probably his worst game as a starter. And if your worst game as a starter is throwing for 300 yards, like, okay, man, like it's a true freshman. Like, it's going to have those bad-ish games. But I think he still showed he can move the ball and run the offense even when he's not making the best decisions necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited going into next season still. I still think we're going to have a team that can compete for a playoff. We do have transfers coming to visit this weekend, high school players. I mean, you take away this amount of starters from most teams, they probably aren't going to win this game by 26 points or 25 points. And I mean, we had a lot of players stand out in this game. And I mean, Napier really has to have things going next year, man. I mean, there's no excuses now.
No.
I do have a list of players who will be visiting this weekend. You have Jonte Cook, former 5-star receiver. We already talked about Ratrell Perry, offensive lineman. Kofi Asare from UMass, edge rusher. And safety from UAB, guy I was talking about earlier, Adrian Maddox. And then, not a transfer, the name everyone's looking out for, Dallas Wilson. He's going to be taking a visit this weekend. This is where I assume he's going to get everything signed.
I
And
hope so, man. I can't get too hype about this one until we may have jumped the gun on that. I just
I
need
don't
to
think
see it.
so.
I need to see it done and dusted. I need to see that. I need to see things signed and official. Because this recruitment has taken years off my life, which is sad.
He posted the on-3 commit flip on his Instagram. Like, I mean, it's either
these kids like to troll, man. I don't know.
it's either Dallas Wilson is the most elite troll in college football recruiting history.
Yeah.
But like he should be a Gator. He's going to be on campus this weekend. I also
Yeah.
think he hasn't signed yet because probably have to get the paperwork ready in Gainesville from our side and maybe his side. I mean, for his side to side. Cameron Kosman, a tight end committed to Pennsylvania, is going to be visiting.
Like a high school tight end?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
So we'll see where that goes. But I'd like to thank everybody for watching. We know this wasn't our normal time for streaming our post-game shows. We also will be live earlier tomorrow for our weekly show, episode 11. So we're probably going to have some end-of-season stuff happening on that show. It's going to be really fun to go throughout the season, talk about that early stretch. There were some things I want to say on this show, but I'm going to pause and hold them for tomorrow. So thank you guys for watching.
I think we'll end on this note.
And yep, go Gators, y'all.